Well, thank you for that introduction, Andy. And we are going to get right into our content because these sessions are only 45 minutes long and there's a lot to cover. So we are here to talk about distance learning platforms and helping you find a platform that will be a good fit for you and what you want to accomplish as a teacher and what your learners need. So I'm going to move straight ahead and introduce myself. I'm Susan Wettenkamp-Brandt. I'm with Literacy Minnesota. I am the Senior Manager for Educational Technology and Digital Literacy. I've been there for about 15 years now, working with technology and online learning. And I facilitate the statewide distance learning support team. And so I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different distance learning platforms, but not all of them, because as you will see in this session, there are something like 50 platforms now. There's no way any one human being can possibly know all 50, but I will do my best to introduce you to a wide variety. So the agenda for the session, we're going to start out with just a little bit of high-level background information, because I know at Summer Institute, sometimes we have brand new people to the field. In the past, I know there have been teachers whose very first day of work was the first day of the conference. And so sometimes you need to start at the beginning, like, what are we even talking about here? And then I'll just a little bit about how platforms are approved. So if you know of a platform that you really like and you think it should be approved for proxy hours, I can show you where you can fill out an application to make that happen. And then we'll talk very briefly about some different factors to kind of think about and keep in your mind as we're looking at all the different platforms and some things to assess them on. What's going to work for me? What's going to work for my learners? And then we're going to look at all the state-supported platforms, some popular free platforms, and then a few things that are new that have been approved since the last time I did the session. And then we'll look at the website if we have time and show you how you can filter and find other stuff. We have some background noise. Andy, do you want to mute folks if they haven't already muted themselves? Thanks. Alrighty, so distance learning platforms. So we all know in our regular classes, we take attendance and those count as contact hours. For distance learning platforms where people are working outside of their class time independently, those are referred to as proxy hours. So it's a proxy for a contact hour, right? And the state is required by our federal office, OCTAE, to maintain a list of approved distance learning curricula. And in Minnesota, we have chosen to do that by using a distance learning website. And that website then functions to complete that federal requirement, but it's also a really useful tool for teachers. We have links to all the different platforms, and we have information about those platforms, and sometimes teacher-created materials like, sign-in, login sheets that you might pass out to students, things like that. We organize all of that on the distance learning website, and then you can go there anytime you want and just browse through and see what is available to you. So I think Liddy has put that link in the chat, and you are welcome to go poke around over there anytime you want. And you can check out the platform pages for the different platforms as we go through the session if you are so interested. So proxy hours, they come in sort of two types. And so there's two types of platforms. And when you go to the distance learning website, you'll see them listed this way. So there's unit completion and there's time on task. So time on task is where I'm going to start, even though it's at the bottom of the slide. Time on task is the most common currently, and I think probably the most popular because it's the most accurate representation of what your learners are actually doing in the software. It has some kind of software tracker that is like monitoring students' work in the platform and is counting the minutes for you, right? But the issue with that is that these trackers are pretty stringent and they don't capture everything that we would consider meaningful online activity, right? So let's say a student takes a quiz. The time that they're taking the quiz will count as time, but maybe not the time that they spend going over and reviewing their answers. Or if they are sitting and looking up their available choices of what's next in the learning platform. And they click on this one and they look at that, and maybe they're choosing something else. That sort of choosing time doesn't get counted. Maybe there's an internal messaging system in the platform for connecting with their teacher. Probably messaging your teacher, not included in activity time, right? So to make up for that, because we know that all of those things are meaningful, useful things that our students should be doing, we don't want to cut out that time. We compensate by taking the time on task and we add 25%. So an extra 15 minutes for every study hour that the student completes. And that's the Proxy Hour award that actually gets entered into SID for attendance. So that's the most popular and the most common way that proxy hours are calculated, but not all software has a time on track task tracker, and some things are paper-based. Well, you can't count time on task on a paper booklet, right? So how do we calculate hours for that? So for those things, we have unit completion, and those have a fixed proxy hour award for completion of a designated unit or module or lesson, whatever it's called in that platform. And the amount that is awarded is average. So when somebody completes an application to get something approved, they have to sort of observe students using it, and they'll say, well, on average, students take 15 minutes to complete a reading on this platform, or on average, students take an hour to complete one of these modules. And so then that's the award that is given to every student. And some take more time and some take less, but everybody gets the same amount. And so then, in addition to sort of organizing things by what kind of proxy hours they are, there's also how are they paid for. So we have state-supported platforms that everybody has access to because your consortium has already paid a fee to help pay for the license. There are things that are free, just open source and available to anyone. And then there are things that are commercial products that your program would need to pay for. So our state-supported platforms are Edmentum and Northstar Digital Literacy, EdReady, and Moby Max. And we also have a few courses on the Literacy Minnesota training website, which I'll show you. And then we have, oh, I should also add, NGen is in pilot this year. So a few programs have access to it through the state-supported platform, but not everybody. It's in a pilot phase. We're trying to determine if we want to use it as a state-supported platform. There are free platforms like Khan Academy and USA Learns that are very popular and well-liked by learners. And then there are lots and lots of platforms that are really great, and we just can't afford to buy everything for everybody. And so if you wanted to buy something like Burlington English, your program would need to invest in that. So platforms are approved by my team. And they are submitted for approval by you all. So there's an application on that distance learning website. If you go to the policies and procedures page, and you fill out that application, it's a Google form, it comes to me, I forward it on to my team. 2 to 3 people on the team will take a look at the application. If possible, they'll get a demo login from you and they'll try it out and they'll see how it works, and they'll try running reports and kind of run it through the ringer. And then if everything checks out, we will approve the application and it'll get added to the website. And that's pretty much how it goes. And that's why we have like 50 things on the list, because everybody's using something different. Maybe your consortium has purchased something, maybe your school district has purchased something, and you want to be able to get proxy hours for that. But, it's not on the approved list yet. You can fill out an application. Maybe there's an up and coming new free platform that we haven't heard about yet, and you want to make sure that gets on the list. If you have something that fits that description, go ahead and fill that application out, and we will take a look at it. We're always approving new things every year. And so our field, Minnesota Adult Ed, is really grassroots, and that's definitely true of our distance learning platform approvals. What's on the list is what educators have submitted to us. So if there's something that's not there, you can change that. And I am going to stop now and ask Andy if there are any questions in the chat before we move on to talk about different platforms.
No, there are not.
All right. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat at any time and we will field them. So thinking about what's best for your learners, but keep this stuff in mind as we look at all the different platforms. Content and levels of course, right? What am I teaching? Am I teaching high school equivalency? Am I teaching English language learners? You know, am I doing a career focused class? What am I working on? Does this platform even match what I'm trying to teach? Devices is a big one. A lot of our adult learners prefer to do their work on their cell phones. So is the device mobile friendly? Is it mobile optimized? Even better, right? That's a big question. Internet access. Do all my students have internet access, or should I be looking at platforms that also have paper options? Because maybe, you know, 10, 20% of your students don't have home internet and would prefer to be able to do some work on paper. How complex is this interface? Is it something the learners at my level with their digital literacy can actually navigate successfully? Some platforms are a lot simpler to navigate on the student side than others. And, you know, I've got some screenshots in the platforms when we look at those slides, and you can kind of look at that interface and just think, how many buttons, how many things have they got to sort through? How much text can people navigate this thing? And then thinking about, as a teacher, how do you want to use it? Is it going to be for distance learning only, right? And that's going to be their core content. Maybe they're a GED prep student who lives 2 hours away from your site, and this is the way they're going to prepare for their GED. Well, you got to have something that's got the full range of content if you're in that situation. But maybe you're an English language learning teacher in a large urban program, and you've got 25 students in your class, and you just want to assign them some supplementary work to do on their own time. That's a different situation. You don't need such a comprehensive thing. You want something maybe that's tailored just for English language learning. Or do you want to do something blended? Are you thinking about, well, I want to assign content in the distance learning platform, and then I want to look at how everybody did, and then I'm going to teach a lesson 2 days later that fills in the gaps that I noticed that people had in their online learning platform. So if you want to tie the two things together, you want to make sure that the platform that you're looking at can do teacher customized assignments, because not every platform can. Some platforms are more like a diagnostic the student takes and they get an individualized learning pathway. And in others, it's a straight curriculum. You sign up for the course and you work through the course top to bottom, and the teacher doesn't make customized assignments. So if you want to do a blended learning model, you have to have a platform that can actually do that, right? And then the last thing to think about is reporting. Am I going to do the reporting as a teacher? Is there somebody at my program in the office who does reporting, and we want to centralize it all? How is that going to work? And does the platform support centralized reporting if that's something we want to do? So a lot of things to think about, and I'll try to kind of touch on the highlights of these as we are looking at the platforms. But it's not just a straightforward choice. There's always trade-offs. So hopefully you can find something that will hit the most important factors for you in your situation. Oh, I already asked for questions, but if there are any, you can drop them in the chat at any time. I'd be happy to call on you, and you can ask your question out loud too, if you prefer.
Yeah, still no questions in the chat.
All right, we got a quiet group this morning. All right, we're going to start with state-supported platforms. The first one that we have had for quite some time now, I think we've had this license for something like 6 years, is Edmentum Courseware. And Edmentum is our big core content platform for adult basic education, 6th grade content to 12th grade content. It's also got career and technical education courses, some custom adult diploma courses, and some CCRS aligned skills courses that we worked with a teacher to custom create for us. So this is, really the core platform that is used for GED prep, for basic skills, pre-GED level. There's adult diploma content, like I said, people who are doing TABE testing and they want to do TABE aligned courses. There's that content in there. So this, and there's also, for those of you who will be implementing HiSET this year, there are also HiSET specific courses in Edmentum. So this is really, your core content for your adult basic education, high school equivalency prep program. It's really, I think, aimed at native English speakers, but I think anyone with a high intermediate ESL level or above could really navigate it and make use of the content. Because it's state supported, the cost is already paid. There's no additional cost to you or your learners. It's all online. It is mobile friendly, but I would say it's not fully optimized for mobile. So some of the tutorials are fairly large. And if you've got a really small phone screen like I do, you're going to be doing a lot of side scrolling and top to bottom scrolling to kind of see the text. So I think it works better on something like a Chromebook or a laptop because you need a little bit more screen real estate to really make the most use of the lessons, but it can be done on a mobile phone. And we have students who successfully do so. Just wouldn't be my preference. Reporting is one of its strong suits. It has great reporting features that are easily centralizable by a single person who can run the reports for the whole program. So I think that's a strong suit of this platform. And here's just a screenshot of what it looks like on mobile. And you can see that it's sort of cut off at the bottom and at the side. It's text wrapping, that's fine. But at the bottom, it's cut off, and that's because of the size of the screen. So kind of got to do that top to bottom scrolling. But it works. You can do it. There's no flash or anything like that that's going to prevent you from accessing it on your phone. And I'm seeing a couple of chat comments here from Katrina asking about, haven't heard of this, how do we access it or find out the program login information? Does each site get one admin seat? Actually, you can have as many administrators at your program as you need. And if you go to the distance learning website, there's a little Google form that you can fill out to request an administrator seat. And that comes to me, and I will, or my colleague Elizabeth, she's covering a lot of those requests these days. And we'll fill that out and send you the account, and you'll be in, and we will be able to send you like a quick start guide. And there's, I think, a recorded webinar you can watch to help you get started. So yeah, you are welcome to get started anytime.
So really quick, I hope it's okay. I unmuted
Go right ahead,
myself. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So at the end of the presentation, you were going to go over the website and where we could like drop that form, correct?
Yes, if we have time, I'm going to show the website.
Thank
I hope
you.
we do. All right. Any other questions before we move on to the next one? All right. The next state-supported platform I want to talk about is EdReady. And EdReady is a product of a nonprofit organization called NROC, the National Repository for Online Curriculum. And EdReady is a college prep program specifically for English and math content. So for English language arts, they have for the TABE at the advanced and difficult level. And then math, it goes more basic than that. On the TABE, it goes down to the easy medium level and up. And then they also have customized English and math for various career pathways. So if you have students who you know are going into a nursing program or something, and what math do they need for that program, you can get a customized math prep for that career pathway. So yeah, it's primarily used for college prep, but can also be used for GED or high school equivalency prep because of the TABE content, right? And then career pathways alignment is really strong as well. This one has a setup where teachers don't make customized assignments. So if you are thinking of doing a blended learning model, this isn't probably the platform you want. This one is more student driven. So every student that enrolls in EdReady takes a diagnostic assessment, and they are provided then a customized learning pathway specific to what they have gaps in their learning. So that diagnostic is pretty rigorous and intensive. So you want to prepare students that when they get started on this, they're going to take a pretty rigorous test, but then after that, that test is going to populate exactly what they need to work on, and they can skip all the stuff that they don't need to work on. And then that will get them ready to enroll in their college program. It is mobile friendly. It's not fully optimized. There's some scrolling involved, just like on Edmentum. It's all online. The reporting is good, but I think it is hard to centralize really well because the reports run for specific learning goals. So the teacher might only be running 2 or 3 learning goals. So it's not too much reporting. You only have to run 2 or 3 reports. Okay, not bad. But if the whole program is running 20 different learning goals, that's a lot of separate reports to run for an administrative person. So I think the reporting on this one works a little bit better for a teacher-led reporting model than a centralized reporting model. But the content's really good, and it is definitely aligned with college readiness. So if you do have college-bound learners, I think it's a really good fit, because if they can successfully complete their learning path in EdReady, they will definitely be ready to succeed in college, which is what we want them to do, obviously. Oh, and we actually have someone from NROC here today. Zarha, I didn't know you were here, so welcome. Hopefully you can answer questions in the chat if anybody has any. All right, I'm going to move on to our next one. The next one is Moby Max. So this is our academic content for the beginning levels. So this is a K-8 program. So it starts with really basic content, letters, letter sounds, blending letter sounds, basic spelling, all of that kind of stuff. It's starting at that kindergarten level and then moving up through 8th grade level. So pre-GED, pre-high school equivalency, reading, math, science, that kind of content. It is aimed at kids, so there is a sort of kidsy look and feel to it. And some students don't like that, and some don't care at all. And so I think you have to just know your learners and whether or not that's going to be an issue for them, and choose appropriately. We have a lot of learners at my program at our open door learning sites using Moby Max, and some are doing incredible amounts. We're running a little contest this summer for students. They can win an iPad by completing distance learning hours. And we had a learner in July at one of our sites do 71 hours on Moby Max alone, which is kind of crazy in 1 month. And that's at and she's at a higher level. I would say she's probably in the advanced class. So she's probably working on that content in that sort of 5th to 6th grade level in reading and math and science. So, so some students really don't mind that sort of kidsy look and will eat it up. But I know some people are more sensitive to that than others. So keep that in mind. It is mobile friendly. It's not fully optimized. There is some scrolling involved, and occasionally with drag and drop exercises. They don't quite fit on the small screen, but it works quite well on a tablet size. So iPad or an Android tablet size is perfect. A little a little phone screen is a little bit problematic. Again, like all our other state supported platforms, this is already paid for, so there's no additional cost to you. Reporting can be centralized by sharing all the students with a single teacher account, and then there's only one report that needs to be run. So that, I think, is a strong feature of the platform as well. And then another thing, because this platform is designed for young children starting at kindergarten level, it has an option for simple student sign-in, which means the student doesn't need to have a username and password to get logged in. Because we know, of course, young children, 5, 6 years old, may not be able to handle usernames and passwords either. Many of them also are not reading yet, right? So it's all visual based instead. You set up the simple student sign in and you add the students to the roster. And then when they go to log in, they just need to look for their name on the list and click their name. And then their password is pictures. So maybe basketball, soccer ball is my password, right? And then once I click those, I'm logged in. And then you can see this is an example of the really basic alphabet sounds lesson. So the learner, clicks this little speaker icon, they hear G, and they're going to click the G, right? So we're starting at a really, really beginning level. So if you're working with learners at that level who are learning literacy for the first time, or maybe, they're literate in a non-Roman alphabet language and they need to start at the beginning with sound symbol correspondence, this might be the platform for you. Ooh, people want to hear about the contest and how it was pitched to learners. So we know that hours at our sites tend to go down in the summer. A lot of our learners are parents, their kids are out of school, so they can't come to class as much because they have to be home with their kids. And so we decided to promote distance learning, independent study at home on your phone as an option for keeping engaged if you couldn't come to class during the summer. And we had our staff go around to all the classes and we had a little flyer and they promoted it. And any student who earns at least 10 distance learning hours in a month is eligible to win a gift card, a $25 gift card, and to Target, Cub Foods, or Walmart. And then any learner who does at least 20 hours is eligible to get an iPad. And so those are our incentive products, and we've seen really good results. We have had an uptick in usage of all our distance learning platforms this summer, and people seem excited about it. They like the contest idea. It's sort of gamified, which people like. It's been fun and people have liked it, and we are running about 6 to 7 different distance learning platforms that students are using. But I think the one that gets the most usage is probably Moby Max, because we have a lot of English language learners at that beginning level who really do need the basic content. All right, any other questions before we move on? All right, I don't see any other ones popping up. So the last one I want to talk about, second to last one I want to talk about in our state supported platforms is Literacy Minnesota Courses for Adults. These were formerly built on the Learner Web platform, and they're now hosted on our Moodle site. And there are 4 courses, one for CNA prep, a manufacturing career prep, medical office career prep, and a child development career prep. These are all free. LMS Moodle is fully mobile optimized, so you can have your learners working on that on their mobile phones. And the reporting is pretty good. You can centralize it, but I think it's probably a little easier for individual teachers to do, but it's doable. And this is just an example of what one of the courses looks like on a mobile phone. So this is from the CNA prep course about the Patient Bill of Rights, and you can see the quiz looks like this. I know we're already at 9:30, so I want to truck right along and get through as much as I can before we run out of time here. The The last state-supported platform is our Northstar digital literacy platform. And as the name implies, this is for learning computer skills, right? And other digital literacy related content. Again, it's already paid for. It's all online. It's mobile friendly, but not fully, because the assessments themselves, I don't think you can do on a Chromebook. I think you have to do them on a Windows machine. But the learning content is more mobile friendly. But of course, for many of the lessons, you're learning things like Windows or Microsoft Office. Well, it's pretty hard to practice Windows or Microsoft Office if you're not on a Windows machine. So I think it works better on a Windows PC. But there is also some Google content like Google Docs that would be applicable to people working on a Chromebook or something like that. So, or email or something like that that's universally useful. So I think it's a little better on Windows machines, but it is mobile friendly and some of the content makes sense for a mobile user. And then we're going to dive into a few free platforms that I'll talk about super fast so that we can get to the website. But again, feel free to ask any questions in the chat if you've got some. One of the popular platforms for free use is Khan Academy. It started out primarily as a math and science product, excuse me, but they have in the last couple of years also added English language arts subjects for 2nd to 9th grade, and they also have a grammar course. So if you are teaching ELA, there's some content in there that you might find useful. It is more of a student-centered platform. It's really, I would say, student first in its design ethic, right? It started out as something that students could just use independently, and the whole teacher interface has just sort of been added on after the fact. The student piece was first. But they have in recent years added the ability for teachers to make custom assignments, and they've improved the interface, I think, to make those custom assignments show up more prominently on the learner's interface. So I think it's becoming more teacher friendly over time, but it is still, I would say, a student first platform. There is a dedicated phone app, which is one thing I like about this platform. For both iOS and Android, the phone app is really good. And one of the highlights is that with Khan Academy, a lot of the learning is in videos. And if you're using the phone app, you can bookmark or save the videos for offline viewing. And so we know not all our students have home internet, or maybe their home internet is poor and it's not good enough to stream videos very well. But if they are using the Khan Academy app and they come to your site, they can download some videos on your stronger Wi-Fi network at your school site and then have them available for offline viewing when they go home. So I think that's a good support for our learners who struggle with internet access. So this is just a couple of examples of what it looks like in the phone app. And if you wanted to save one of those videos for offline viewing, it's just this bookmark button right here. ReadWorks is another one I want to highlight. They are free and nonprofit, and they are a library of fiction and nonfiction reading passages. This one is unit completion. Unlike pretty much everything else I've been talking about is time on task proxy hours. This is a unit completion product, and that is partly because both the printed and the online paper, or sorry, the online and the printed paper passages are both approved for proxy hours. So if you are in a situation like a jail-based reading program, or you are working with a lot of learners who don't have home internet and you are looking for something that you can do on paper, ReadWorks is a good option. Now, I like the online interface for ReadWorks. It's got audio support that students can listen to the text. It's very mobile friendly. So I really like the online interface for ReadWorks. But the fact that you can do it on paper is also really appealing for a number of different contexts. And this is just an example of what the teacher interface looks like here. You have a lot of different options for how to search for content. You can look by topic, by grade level, if it has different types of questions available. And then you can also see the reading level, how many words, how many questions, vocab pieces are associated with it. So you have a lot of information available to you as a teacher before you pick a text. Something in the chat, and Leah is adding that it can be linked with Google Classroom. Yes. So if you're using Google Classroom, it's one of those that interfaces with that platform. So you you don't have to re-add all the students. You can just import from your Google Classroom. And this is an example of what the kind of details look like when you get into one of the texts. And then there's Quill. I'm going to take a drink here because I'm starting to lose my voice. Quill is more of a grammar, punctuation, sentence combining kind of content. So it's focused on writing skills, and it's got beginner, intermediate, and advanced level content. It has some cool content that you could use as a teacher in an online class or in a live classroom setting where you can project on the screen or on, on your whiteboard. So there's some live instructional materials that you can use, which I like. This one is also unit completion, and because the units are pretty small, it's 15 minutes per activity. Very mobile friendly. I've got it listed here in our free platforms because there is a basic version that's free, but there's also a paid upgrade that's available for $80 a year. So I think this is a pretty popular platform for folks who are working towards their high school equivalency or their GED, and they're needing to work on some of those core writing skills for the English Language Arts test. This is just an example of what it looks like on a mobile phone. You start with a diagnostic, and then you work into some different lessons, and you'll get a text, and you'll just click here on each of these underlined phrases in the text to choose the appropriate answer. And there was a question about ReadWorks unit completion is based on 70%. Yes, I believe that is correct. That's generally the standard, is passing score is 70% for most platforms. And then Sarah has put in the chat about Common Lit and Newsela. And yes, Common Lit is, I think, the next one on my slide deck, but I don't have Newsela on here because I just can't cover everything because we have so little time. But yes, I also quite like Newsela. So Common Lit, super quick, another reading platform. This one is more teacher focused, I think, in some ways. So you really have to choose and assign texts for learners. And there are texts from 3rd to 12th grade. And they also have printable materials that you can use in your classroom if you want to use it as an in-person curriculum support. And these are 1 hour per text or 2 hours if you're doing all the guided questions. So when the learner goes in to do the text, if you have guided questions turned on, it will sort of prompt them as they're working through the text instead of just wait to have all the questions at the end. It's also free and nonprofit. And this is just an example of what it looks like in the mobile app. You can have it read aloud. There's a translate option. It's got some really nice accessibility features like font size. Here is something that you can change. So it's a really nice app, and it works really well on mobile phones. Some great content in there. Katrina, I am not 100% certain about the Proxy Hour Awards on the paper versions. I would have to double check on that. It's probably on the website though. All right, and just super quick, I'm going to share 2 things that were approved new this year. And one of those is Engine, which is formerly known as Voxy. And this is a contextualized English language learning app. It is very career focused or workforce focused. So it's contextualized English language learning for preparing people to go in different career pathways. and it uses all real world content, and there's a lot of video based content, but also news articles and that kind of thing. It is a commercial platform and purchase is required, but we are currently running a pilot to see if it would work as a state supported platform. And so there's 9 ABE programs this year that are piloting it to see if we can make it fit as one of our approved platforms. Or our state supported platforms. It's a little bit tricky because of the way the licensing works. It may not be something that we can make work as a state supported platform, because for state supported platforms, we prefer to have things that we can do a statewide license for, like EdReady or Edmentum or Moby Max. We can buy one license for the whole state and we don't have to dole out individual licenses to individual programs around the state. And I don't know that that's possible with NGen. So that might be a stumbling block to us being able to support it as a state supported platform, but the content's really good. And so we are taking a look at it to see if it's viable. And this is just an example of what the content looks like. You know, you get a video and then there's prompts on what to do with the video. And you start with watching, and then there's reading, and then there's listening activities and grammar activities and everything all embedded in the lesson. So I think it's a really cool platform. I'm looking forward to seeing what the pilot users say about it. And then the last one that was also approved this year is called Percipio. And this is also a video-based platform, and it is specific for career pathways prep and workforce tech skills. So it will help you if you are doing a career pathway and you need something that will prepare students for particular certifications like the CompTIA or the Microsoft Office Specialist. It's got all that career prep, tech skills prep content in it. And there is a little video available made by Minneapolis Adult Education, who is the program that applied for it and is primarily using it. And that's on our DL website. So if you want to check that out and see a little bit more about it, you can watch that video that's there on the website. So that is all the platforms I have time to talk about today, but we're going to go quick over to the distance learning website. And I'll just show you what that looks like. So the distance learning website is part of Literacy Minnesota's website because we are the host for the distance learning support grant. And if you scroll down, you'll see there's several different sections. All the platforms are here. But if you're looking for that application to get a platform approved, and I did see somebody put one in the chat, something that they said they're using that is not on the approved list. If you wanted to apply for it, that's going to be here under the policies and procedures page. We have a news and updates, and then professional development information is over here. But where we want to look here is platforms. So you can search by keyword. So let's say you wanted to check out Quill, you can just come in here and search for Quill, right? And that'll pop right up. And you can click learn more, and then you'll see a little description. There's a screencast on how to do proxy hours. And then there's usually a super user listed for most of our platforms. And a super user is just usually the person who applied for approval for the product. But it's somebody who uses the platform. They're just a person in our field in adult education who's using this thing and has volunteered to answer questions from other users. So their email is usually listed on the website and you can contact them. And so you might, say, hey, Christy, I'm curious about how the diagnostic assessments work in Quill. Can you tell me how you're using that in your high school equivalency prep class, right? And so that's what our super user system is for. And don't feel shy to contact people. They have volunteered for this role. So they're happy to take questions from you. If you go back to the platforms page here, you can also filter by topic. You can just click on as many topics as you want to see by literacy level, and that's broken down into CASAS and TABE scores. And then you can also just see how are things paid for. Like, I just want to see fully free things. I don't want even those with paid upgrades. I just want free stuff, right? Or I only want to see the state supported stuff. You can filter that way.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Susan.
Here we are.
We're going to go ahead and stop the recording. And we can stay on for a couple of minutes if people still have any further questions. Okay, stop.